Forget conquest. Forget the cavalry charges, the burning cities, the generals on horseback. None of that built an empire that lasted. Something far more boring did. Historians who study the rise and fall of empires keep landing on the same conclusion. The empires that survived for centuries weren't the ones with the best armies, they were the ones with the best paperwork. That sounds like an insult. It isn't. Paperwork, in this sense, means something bigger. It means five specific repeatable systems. Every empire that lasted more than a generation built all five. Every empire that skipped one collapsed faster than anyone expected. And here's the strange part. You can trace the exact same five steps from Rome to the Mongols to the British Empire, 3,000 years apart. Three completely different cultures, the same underlying machine. This isn't a story about ancient history, it's a story about a transferable framework, one that shows up in company org charts and supply chains today, whether anyone realizes it or not. So, what are the five steps? And why does skipping, even one of them, sink the whole project? Step one, feed the center before you expand the edges. Every empire begins with a capital, and every capital has the same fatal weakness. It cannot feed itself. Rome, at its peak, held over 1 million people inside a single city, and it grew almost no food within its own walls. The historian Peter Ganzi, who spent decades studying ancient famine and food supply, documented just how close that system came to failure again and again. One bad harvest in North Africa, one storm in the wrong season, and 1 million people go hungry within weeks. So before Rome conquered anything else, it built a permanent grain fleet, state-subsidized shipping routes, and public granaries the size of small towns. Feeding the center wasn't a side project, it was the precondition for everything else. No empire in history has managed to expand while its own capital starved. Step 2. Standardize before you govern. An empire absorbs dozens, sometimes hundreds, of conquered peoples, each with their own weights, their own coins, their own local law. Left alone, that chaos makes an empire ungovernable within a decade. So the second unglamorous step is standardization, common coinage, common measurements, a shared administrative language for tax and trade, even when a dozen local languages survive underneath it. The Persian Achaemenid Empire did this with the daric, a single gold coin accepted from Egypt to the edge of India. Rome did it with weights and measures enforced down to the local marketplace. Standardization is invisible when it works and catastrophic when it's missing. Why does a coin matter more than a legion? Because a legion can conquer a province in a season. Only a shared unit of value can hold it for 100 years. Step 3, build the roads before you need them. Not roads for beauty, roads for speed, and speed for two things only, moving grain and moving news. The Persian Royal Road could carry a message from Susa to Sardis, a distance of over 2,000 kilometers, in about a week, using a relay system of mounted couriers that the Greek historian Herodotus described with open admiration. Rome's road network, at its height, stretched over 80,000 kilometers. Neither empire built these roads for tourists. They built them because an empire that cannot move information faster than a rebellion can spread loses control the moment it stops watching. Step 4, count everything. This is the least glamorous step of all, and the one most often forgotten in the story we tell about empires. Census records, property registries, tax ledgers. The Roman census, conducted roughly every 5 years, wasn't bureaucratic overreach. It was survival information. How many people, how much land, how much grain, how many men available for the legions. Without that data, taxation becomes guesswork, and guesswork bankrupts a government within a generation. The economist Mancur Olson, writing centuries later about the logic of states, argued that a functioning tax system is the single clearest predictor of whether a large political structure survives past its founding generation. Not conquest, counting. Step 5, absorb. Don't just occupy. Here's where most short-lived empires failed and most long-lived ones succeeded. Conquering a people is easy. Making them want to stay is not. Rome extended citizenship slowly, unevenly, but persistently to conquered peoples across 3 continents. By the year 212, under the Emperor Caracalla, nearly every free person inside the empire's borders held Roman citizenship. That single administrative decision did something no legion could. It turned millions of former enemies into people with a personal stake in the empire's survival. 5 steps: feed the center, standardize the system, build the roads, count everything, absorb the conquered. None of them involve a sword. Here's the part that should worry you a little. These 5 systems are also the 5 single points of failure. The same grain fleet that fed Rome for 5 centuries could be cut off by a handful of ships blockading North Africa, and it nearly was more than once. The same roads that let Rome move legions in weeks let plague move just as fast. The Antonine Plague, likely smallpox, spread along those same roads in the 2nd century and may have killed up to 10% of the empire's population. The machine that built the empire was the same machine that could unmake it. And that's exactly what happened, slowly, over centuries, not in one dramatic collapse, but in 1,000 small failures of the same 5 systems. The grain routes got harder to defend. The currency got debased until it stopped functioning as a shared unit of value. The roads decayed faster than they could be repaired. The census stopped being reliable. And citizenship, once the empire's greatest strength, stopped meaning anything once the center could no longer deliver what citizenship had promised. So this was never really a story about Rome or Persia or any single empire. It's a story about what any large system needs to survive at scale and what breaks it when the boring parts get neglected. Feed the core, standardize the exchange, build the pathways, measure what matters, bring people in instead of just holding them down. You're living inside a version of this system right now. Somebody somewhere is feeding your city. Somebody standardized the currency in your wallet. Somebody built the roads and the networks that move your information faster than any rebellion could spread. You've never had to think about any of it until the day it stops.